What is going on, guys? This is your boy XQ420. I want to welcome everybody back to another episode, Showtime with a Cube. I got my host, Corey Hughes, with me. Co-host Corey Hughes. What's going on, Corey?
Not much, man. Good week.
Good week. Great. If it's your first time here, please subscribe to the channel. Listen to us on podcast platforms. Leave a follow for us there. We appreciate all the support that y'all give us. We're going to be diving into Episode 5, The Rings of Power. All right, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. This episode, it kind of scaled back. That there really wasn't any type of, let's say, exciting events as far as any fighting sequences. And maybe that's... Okay, so maybe I got my mind when I'm thinking of The Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings. Maybe, and I'm probably off kilter here, but I kind of want to see just a touch more action. What do you think, Corey? Just right out the gate.
Well, I think that the storyline is finally moving, right? It's going somewhere. They're starting to build up. We've seen, I think, the best of what we're going to see from these characters that we're forced to deal with. But again, I'm trying to put aside all past criticisms and just allow the story to unfold and either take me on a journey or not. And so I'm still very open-minded, despite all of our criticisms of the past. And I'm trying to just watch it and let the storyline play out without really putting too much hope or expectation into it. But this week overall, it wasn't horrible, right? It didn't really go far, but I'm glad to see the storyline is rolling along.
I almost equate this this particular week as almost like a pseudo filler episode to give you maybe a little bit of a tease or a build up towards a major battle, which I hope is coming in episode 6. How do you feel about it? You think the same thing?
Well, one thing I want to comment on real quick is I did appreciate the themes that were put forth in this episode. Themes of rebuilding trust, between the dwarves and the elves, and the same thing between the humans and the elves, right? So there were once strong bonds that held these people together that are no longer present, right? So we're starting to see this slow process of trust building between the forces that ultimately will have to go up against Sauron. So I kind of don't expect a lot of action really anytime soon. If at all this season, really. If they have a 5-year plan, then I can see them taking their time with the action stuff to build up the story in this first season, which I'm almost kind of hoping for, because I don't want to see a rushed battle scene that doesn't really feel like it has any substance. You know what I mean? So again, I'm being very optimistic with the show. I know it doesn't deserve my optimism, but I'm gonna, it is what it is, and so let's just see where this thing goes. Okay.
Well, you're talking about the trust factor. Okay, so when you say about the building trust, what's crazy is that they're and this is an oxymoron, but they're building trust through the lies they're telling each other. It's crazy because Durin's lying to the elves are lying to Durin. Like, it's just this whole the humans lying to the elves, people in Numenor lying to each other. So it's a whole bunch of lying going on.
But mostly lies of omission, and ultimately we'll have to see these people team up despite their lies. So it is ironic. I'll give you that much for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I noticed throughout the whole episode. I'm like, okay, so people, bonds, quote unquote, are being formed and they may just be being formed out of necessity as opposed to out of wanting to. And
Right.
so, yeah, and so it's kind of, as long as I can get what I want out of you, we will be good. If not, then there'll be a problem. Okay, and that's usually the way, a whole lot of relationships work. This is more of like I don't even see this as more of a friend deal. It's more of like a professional acquaintance. Okay,
Right.
That's the way I see it. So you might leave things out. You might not tell them the whole truth, but we're trying to get things done together. So that's the way I've kind of seen these particular things rolling out. But this episode started out with the Harfoots, and the Harfoots were not in episode 4 at all.
Right.
So we go back to their particular arc with the stranger. That's what they're calling this particular gentleman currently. Or is he Gandalf? Maybe, potentially. I don't know. He may not be. But so it starts off with that, with them on their migration. And, of course, they come up against a predator finally. The wolf we've seen in episode 1 that they teased. The wolf finally came around.
Right.
The stranger was actually able to protect them. What you think about that moment? Did it reveal anything to you that and right before this, of course, they had. I don't know if these were elves that were out there looking at the crash site where the stranger landed, or whether there was some other type of beings. I couldn't quite get a grasp on what those beings were, and obviously they're following. They're trying to find this particular gentleman. So, what do you think about that build up right there?
Right. So, I believe that they might have been elves. I should have paid more attention when that scene was going on. But the scene with the wolves in particular, it just went to bolster the notion that this is Gandalf, because he punches the ground, right, and chants a little chant, and the shockwave knocks them all back, right? So I think this is just another hint that this is in fact Gandalf. I mean, I think the gray robe gives it away. To me, the gray robe is a dead giveaway. So I'm pretty confident that it is. Now, it's interesting to see that his falling from the sky and his crash site has caught the attention of people other than the Harfoots, right? Because honestly, it's become pretty apparent the only purpose the Harfoots exist is to nurture this Gandalf character, right? Or this possibly Gandalf character.
Right.
So ultimately, I see them as disposable, and I don't see her or any of them playing a major role in the overarching storyline.
Yeah, and if we remember back from the original movies, Gandalf did have a particular liking of hobbits. So throughout those movies, so that may be this may be the showing of the well, this kind of makes sense because he came up with the Harfoots because he's, like I said, it's almost like this is his child form. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't know how to speak. Like he's just like he doesn't really know how to move. So it seems like he's almost like childlike.
So it makes me realize that I have never previously questioned the origins of Gandalf. Right? Like now that we see that his origin story might be him being possibly created and him then falling from the sky, almost being planted there, knowing that he's going to fight some great evil, right? So you start getting into bigger picture questions, like who's behind that? Like who sent Gandalf there? Was it the universe? Was it what god was it in their lore? So it's interesting because now I'm actually curious about Gandalf's origin story. Is this it? Are we seeing it happen? Are we seeing it play out? And I think it'd be rather interesting if that is the case.
Right. And what would be really interesting in the seasons coming up is, of course, will things just be awakened in him? Will he actually have training? So a lot of that is that's going to be interesting coming up. If this is in fact Gandalf, which we're assuming right now that it is, but I'm not completely 100% on that. Of course, we can't be 100% because it hasn't just came out and said yet.
Right. I mean, this also might just be another phase of his life where he doesn't have his memory of the past, but he does have his training, which could emerge over time, along with parts of his memory. You know, so I can see that happening. Probably not this season. Probably, you know, maybe the last episode they might have something hinting at that, and then in the next season, focus more on that and that character. But yeah, so there's a lot of questions about this character that we don't know. I can't help but assume that it is Gandalf. So I'm kind of, when I see the character, that's kind of how I think about it. And I think the scene that we just discussed with the wolves kind of backs that up, showing that he had some sort of magical powers to help, alleviate that situation.
Yeah, and once again, within that, we see that the Harfoots are absolutely ruthless. Okay, I mean the leader's wife. That's what I'm assuming she was just like, you should have took their wheels and left them behind. It's like, I mean, he even looked at him like, damn, woman. I mean, come on now, just say, hey, we taking your wheels. Good luck to you, bro. I mean, that's what she said, and it's obvious that there is a darkness that is spreading across the land, because even they notate that, hey, you know, the lands usually don't look like this time of season. There's usually plenty of food, or luscious to green. So this goes about this theme throughout this particular episode, as far as darkness spreading throughout Middle Earth. Did you feel that way?
Yes, and also that is a heavy theme in dealing with the elves in this episode, because we are brought into the realization that this darkness could potentially adversely affect the elves on like a grand scale. You know, they could dwindle away to nothing over time, and so as we saw in the last episode, the dwarves have discovered mithril in the mines beneath Moria, which is where I think that they are. And so it is brought to our attention that the elves could possibly use mithril to somehow defend themselves against this darkness that will overcome them. What are your thoughts on that? That definitely continued that theme of this creeping darkness.
Right. Yeah. It kind of caught me off guard. I ain't gonna lie to you. It caught me off guard a little bit, and I was like, all right, so how long did they know that this particular, they called it an ore, if I'm correct. Of course, the dwarves call it mithril, but they called it an ore. And from what they were saying, this was created from a battle between an elf and a creature of Sauron competing over a same tree. So I was just that's supposedly how this happened.
That's the mythical storyline. That is the origin story of the ore mithril. Which, and if you'll remember back to the original trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, mithril is like an indestructible metal. I believe that Frodo has the vest of rings, or was it Bilbo? I don't recall. It's been so long.
I think it's Frodo. I think it's Frodo. Yeah.
But yes, it's a very rare metal. And by the time the Lord of the Rings is playing out much in the future, there is all but none still in existence. So it's extremely rare. And here we're seeing what could lead to a collaboration between the elves and the dwarves if they don't let their egos screw it up, and they can get down to helping each other, you know, because I'm sure that the elves have a lot to offer as far as the logistics on how to mine this stuff, because it seems as though the dwarves are having some problems, right?
Right. Right.
There was a cave-in or an explosion in the mines, and it was ordered shut down by the king dwarf. So, yeah, I like where that storyline is going and where it could possibly lead.
Right. Yeah. So we've got that. We've got the tangent. We've seen a little bit more of Adar in this episode. Not really getting any of his backstory at all. He's still just kind of like a mystery right now, as far as how he came to this state and things of that nature. We're not. I didn't get any whisperings or any touch of why he turned to the dark side all those years ago. So did you see anything that gave you an indication?
Possibly. So I went back and I watched the Fellowship of the Ring just recently, and there was a reference in it that the orcs were once elves who were driven underground and fell to following Sauron as opposed to the rest of the elves who followed the light, right? So that's kind of where the orcs came from, and so he could be kind of an interesting holdover from when the orcs were once elves. That's a possibility.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's pretty good. I would be a little.
And he
interested
seems like he's got a lot of history. The guy is battle scarred. I mean, the guy is seasoned. He knows what time it is, and he's been doing this long enough to be a little crazy, right? So. I promise his history probably goes back thousands of years, and we'll come to see at some point that he probably knows some of the elves in the storyline currently, and we'll get to see that reuniting story arc.
Yeah, and there's a reoccurring theme here about bowing before Sauron to save your life. So I'm just wondering if that's what he had to come to because he was in a situation where. He was in a no-win situation, so that's what he did. We actually hear that from multiple people. We see that with Browning at the holdup they've got, the Elven holdup. Of course, she gets up there and immediately, makes her speech. All right, great speech. You know what I'm saying? Even though I don't think she's made a speech before, this is her first one among the masses. They accepted it. They were raising their hands, and then the one dude. Who I'm pretty sure, but he's bowed before Sauron so many times. I mean, he might have held the phallus of Sauron. Okay, this old white dude. I mean, he's all about it. Okay, I mean, he's like, this woman's crazy. Y'all are gonna die, so come with me and let's go bow before him. I was just like, and folks were like, you know what? That's probably a good idea. And we come to find out, it's just like that. It's like Browning, she made the great statement, great speech. Still before I said, okay, strong speech. Folks raising their hands, and then this just old white dude just walks up real quick and said, y'all crazy as shit. We need to go bow before him. And half the people's like, yeah, he's right. And it just bounces out. I said, damn. Y'all just dismissed the speech.
He is the same character who knew about Sauron's hilt when he confronted I can't ever remember that guy's name, the kid with the hilt,
Brown and Son, Brown and Son,
right. And it appeared as though both of them had the scarring on the forearm from having wielded that hilt or one like it. So that character eventually comes before. What's the elf's name?
Who are you talking about? Rondir?
The wicked elf.
Adar. Yeah.
Adar. Okay. So he comes before Adar, and he ends up kneeling to him and pledging his allegiance to Sauron. Okay? And Adar gets angry at this. So what did you take from Adar getting angry when this man pledged himself to Sauron?
It almost seems like Adar wants to be the powerful one. That's what it kind of seemed like to me. Maybe they're searching for the hilt, and if they imbue enough blood within it, maybe it gives you some type of powers. That's what I'm thinking. But Adar did not seem very pleased that he mentioned Sauron's name.
No,
he
not
didn't
at
seem
all.
pleased at all. Yeah, it's almost like him and Sauron might have had beef. Like maybe he was more Morgoth than Sauron. You know, I like Morgoth better.
Well, also it could be that he doesn't like what he's doing, but he has to because he is a slave. Just like how the rings of power enslaved the kings of men, perhaps there's some sort of power being exerted over him to where he has no choice but to assist Sauron in his return. So I still need to look into Sauron's original defeat, which led to this being his return, before his eventual defeat again and eventual return again.
Yeah. I do wish that in the early episode they would have actually shown, you know, the defeat or him being pushed back or something like that to give us the indication, you know, the initial indication that people thought that he was defeated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I thought that would have been a really good groundwork in that first episode, but we didn't get that. It's still kind of a little bit of a mystery if you're not savvy to the books, which I am not. If you're not savvy to any of the books, then it's kind of a mystery how the elves defeat him the first time. And from what I'm seeing, a good part of the Southlands, which was Halbrand's territory, actually fought on Sauron's side, from what we're seeing, because he even makes the reference to Galadriel about the things he had to do to survive.
Right. I'm kind of assuming that all of the Southlands is what will become the land of Mordor. So at some point, Sauron will rise and will just destroy the land and make it into Mordor, into the Mordor that we already know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because when Halbrand is in there with Queen Regent and Galadriel, and they're talking about, moving forward to confront or to go and help the people in the Southlands. He just seems really intent on not going back there. Like he's happy making swords. He said, "Dog, let me just stay here and make some swords, all right?" And I missed something in between the previous episode. Or maybe I just won't pay attention that great, but I missed something. I remember he's in jail last, and then he's out with a guild badge. I was like, I missed something in between there, between him being in jail and then all of a sudden out with his guild badge. Did I miss something there, or did that?
Not really. So he gets out and he meets with the Queen Regent and Galadriel, and then after that, he just kind of walks away, and then after that, he is then later seen with the guild badge. I think what that is kind of meant to symbolize is that he decided through hard work to get that guild badge the old-fashioned way, and to kind of show that he has some kind of stake in remaining on the island.
Okay, yeah, and he seems hell-bent on staying on that island. I mean, he does end up leaving, but it's a hard journey for him, because he's just like, it's like, bud, when I go back there, folks are going to recognize me, and they're going to be like, man, once they tell everybody who I am and what I did, man, a lot of y'all folk ain't going to like me. That's all I'm saying. Is it the shit you have to do to survive? And while he was actually speaking, I thought that they were showing a past vision of him and his people, but that was the current people going and bowing to Adar and the orcs. So I just thought they kind of intertwined that right in together to symbolize what he had to do in the past, which is why he left the Southlands and is not interested in returning. So he's got some tough history. Let's just say that out there that he's trying to.
There's a lot they're not telling us about him. There's just we know next to nothing about this guy, really. And
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for the speculation of other commentators, I wouldn't really have any idea at what they might be hinting at on who he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Is he the king that Galadriel believes him to be of the Southlands? I don't know. Is he Sauron? I don't know. Are those two things mutually exclusive? Do we know in the lore if Sauron was ever once a king of men, particularly in the Southlands? And is that why he made the Southlands Mordor, right? Because it was his original home, right? So there's a lot of questions here that I believe need answering that might be answered in the old books like the Silmarillion. I just don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, they're setting Halbrand up to be a vital piece moving forward without a shadow of a doubt. And it's going to be kind of interesting once they actually reach the Southlands if anybody there will actually remember who he is and recognize him. And what kind of consequences will happen from there. Of course, Galadriel has faith in him, and there's something going on as far as with her and I can't remember this other guy, Elendil. Okay, and I really want to know. That's the captain of the ship. He's almost
right.
And I need to know what kind of backstory he has as well, because he's a very interesting character, because it seems like he spent a ton of time with the elves, seeing how he knows their particular language, and he's never been against going on this journey. So it seems like he has some type of a long-standing history with the elves. So I'm wondering if he still has anybody, that's still within the elvish, kingdom or whatever, that he still is quote unquote friends with.
Right, and I have a feeling that he might be somebody's ancestor, right? So he might play an important role in the lineage, right? Where he came from or who will spring from him in future generations, right? But I have a feeling that he's important generationally, and that will have to be talked about at some point, maybe not this season, but definitely in the future.
Now his son, I do see where they're trying to push him out to the forefront more, and I think he's going to have some type of vital role right here in the near future. Isildur.
Isildur. So Isildur will eventually go on to cut the ring from Sauron's hand, right? So this half-wit of a kid who's a total screw-up will go on to save the day, right? So there's the question of the sword that the Queen Regent gave to whatever his name is, the father, right? So
Elendil.
Elendil. So is that sword the sword that will be passed down to Isildur for Isildur to cut off the ring from Sauron? It very much matches it in description with the circle on the hilt. So we'll see. That could be his importance right there, as he is the father of Isildur.
Right. Now, another key character that I think is going to have a role, which I believe in the downfall of Numenor. There's actually two. It is Farazan. That's the dude with the gray beard and the grayish black hair that was in the last meeting with Galadriel, and then his seems to be apprentice Kemen, which he was trying to sabotage the actual mission to leave Numenor by blowing up one of the ships. So I think they're going to have a key role in the downfall of Numenor. I could see them because they're kind of driven on power. Because if you listen to him, he's like, well, we can have power not only over the men but over the elves and everyone else. So I think they end up getting driven by that power. So I believe, and if you look at the lore, Numenor does get flooded out. So I believe they're going to have a major role in the reason why Numenor, meets the fate that is seen in that particular glass ball. What do you think about that?
Well, I think if we look at it from the perspective of Numenor's ultimate fate, ends with the water crashing over the hills and it being destroyed. So I am not really anticipating anything else causing any real problems for Numenor prior to that, right? I think a major part of the storyline will be how do they avert this from happening. Yeah, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, yeah. I just think that with the way that they're proceeding about this, I think it's going to lead towards the corruption of Numenor itself. And you got a dog back there. This is making a little bit of noise. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I think. I think because those two characters seem sneaky. Let's just say that they're sneaky, they're conniving. They seem like the type of people that, when your back's turned, they slide one in between your ribs. That's the type of people that they seem like. My man's trying to sabotage in the boat, which he ends up doing because I can't say these names. Astilador is trying to stow away on the ship, and that could have ended badly for both of them. I mean, they both could have got blown up right there. I was like, man, I mean, that's a bad idea on how to burn that ship down. I mean, the ship straight up exploded. I mean, you don't get out of there in time. I mean, you blown the smithereens. It's like,
yeah. What I think we learned from that scene was that there are other agendas afoot that we are not aware of. Right. So there are people who want to sabotage this potential alliance between the humans and the elves. And so even though we are aware that there is some animosity from the past, I don't sense that is enough to make people start blowing up ships. So I think that kind of indicates that there is something else going on here. There will be a faction amongst the humans that we should learn more about in the next couple episodes.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that I gotta agree with you there. That had to be an indication of something way bigger than just going to Middle Earth and trying to fight a few orcs. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's just like why would you go to that that length to keep them from leaving? So there's obviously something else going on there. Whether they've got personal agendas as far as trying to proceed with power within Numenor, or whether they have already been corrupted and are partial to Sauron. There might be potential there.
Also, you have to think the king is not in good health, and there's probably some kind of dispute or backroom discussions over whether or not the Queen Regent is the true heir to the throne. And so there might be some Game of Thrones kind of stuff going on involving the people who are higher up in in the monarchy. So we'll see. We'll see that play out hopefully very soon.
Right. Yeah. And this whole particular episode seemed like a more of sharing of secrets, secret plans being revealed, so it was more of a revealing episode. Now, if we go back to Browning with Arondir, she does a 180. And all of a sudden, she's just like, well, I guess we got to bow before Sauron. I'm just like, hold on a second now. I mean, hold on now. You just went up there. You made this great speech, okay? You kept 50% of your folks. You're trying to get ready. And before I know it, you're like, yeah, we screwed. We're going to have to bow. I'm just like, I'm like, so quick. I mean, I mean, what happened to making our last stand? You know what I'm saying? I mean, playing a flag in the ground. This is where we die, but we will take some with us. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
That she flipped pretty quickly.
I said so much for being a leader. I mean, it went right to the wayside quick. Oh, no hope. Oh shit, man, this is bow down. Look, you didn't really have hope before. You got. There's no young men in this particular city. Okay, I mean, not no men of any type of fighting prowess. Let's just say that. All right, it's just not. And so, I mean, your odds were the same whether you had, the other 50% or not, pretty much. Because let's be honest, they ain't much of a threat. The ones that left. But Arondir, he kind of calms her down a little bit. And that's when her son reveals the hilt to Arondir. Now, I think it kind of strange that Arondir does not really know what that is. What do you think about that? I thought seeing how, of course, he said he had 200 years of bow experience and things like that. I figured he would know exactly what this hilt was, but he kind of had no clue of what it was. What do you think about that particular moment?
Yeah, I didn't catch that at the time. But I mean, I don't think it's outside of the question that he would not have that kind of information. Some of that might still be like elf top secret. You never know. Information on the hilt might be one of them things that's buried that not everybody had access to.
Here's the problem, though, Corey. It's elf top secret, except that they just got a fucking statue with the man holding the sword stabbing it through somebody right there at the tower. I'm like, oh, bud, you confused? Man's confused. He's like, what is this? It must be powerful. I'm just like, no, you don't know what it is. And you've been fighting all this time. You say you've been stationed out here for 79 years. You ain't heard a rumbling or nothing? I mean, dang, bro. I mean, I'm just trying to figure the thing out. Hey, I said, okay, Arondir. He's like, look, man, I just like to fight. Folk come and talk to me about stuff. I'm like, ho. I mean, are we killing some orcs or not? I mean, that's what I want to know.
But one thing I do need to comment on is I think that him being let go, just go and give your people this message, that was kind of weak. That I think it was kind of a way for them. They knew they needed to get him out, and they didn't really have a good way to get him out, so they just let him out. So I thought it was pretty poor writing just to let him go the way they did.
Right. Yeah. I tend to agree with that. Whenever somebody's like, go send a message to them, I was just like, y'all don't know how to get them out of this situation. So it's just like, man, send a message, dog. You know what I'm saying? Let them know we're on the way. Well, why would you tell them? You know what I'm saying? Why would you tell them? It's like, if I'm planning an attack, I usually don't want to tell the people I'm coming to attack them. Okay, because I would like to have the upper hand. But I guess they're not even worried. Adar's like, I'm not even worried about upper hand. He prefers honor, okay? That's what Adar said. I prefer honor, all right? And so I want to fight you honorably. Let them know we're on the way to kill him. It says, that ain't going to panic nobody at all. I mean, shit. And Arondir, he doesn't seem panicked at all, even though it's like certain death. He's just like, yeah, man, we ready. It's like, dog.
Well, the message that he relayed... The message that he relayed was that if they gave up their lands and swore fealty to him, then everything would be hunky-dory, and they would all live happily ever after. That was kind of the message. And so
supposedly. Yeah, they'd be out there digging ditches for these vampire orcs. That's what they'd be doing. They'd be digging ditches till the end of eternity for the vampire orcs, which he did have that one orc. He just left his arm out in the sun and he's just sitting there burning them. I was just like, I just something. You watched the Fellowship of the Ring. Did the orcs do that? Did that happen to the orcs?
There were no
Okay.
white orcs. There was not a single white orc in the entire goddamn movie.
Okay,
Not a
that's
one.
what I was thinking. I was just like, man, because it has been a while since I watched those movies, but I did watch the Hobbit movies more recently, and there were orcs in those, and I don't remember at any point in time them burning up in the sun. I mean, at all. So that's why I was just like,
these are the special albino orcs.
okay, so the special needs orcs. Okay, I got you.
Right. Their whiteness is to demonstrate their overly oppressiveness.
Oh boy, that's a good point. That's a good point right there. This particular episode, we didn't really learn anything. Not a whole lot new from Galadriel, except that she's consumed by rage, and she's consumed by the fact that she needs to fight. And so yeah, that's pretty much all we learned from her this episode. We don't really get any new nuances from her.
No, she should get laid and like learn to relax a little bit, and like I swear that solves everybody's problem. I don't give a fuck what your problem is. That will solve it.
Man, so you feel a whole lot better about your day. Just trust me on that. Trust me, your day will go a whole lot better. Yeah. So yeah, no new character development on her. She's pretty much the same. Yep. I just want to go kill some orcs and kill Sauron.
But it seems as though it is coming to some kind of head. Something has to happen. A storyline twist or something big in the next episode. Well, we only got 3 that left in the season.
Yeah, I believe so.
4.
I believe so.
So we've got to have something big happen in the next episode, I would say. So I'm gonna keep an open mind and hope that it doesn't disappoint.
Yeah. So if I'm correct, I think. Okay. Yeah. So there is only 8 episodes. There's only 3 episodes left. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're moving quickly towards something. That's why I think this next episode is going to feature the standoff at that tower. I think that's going to be the majority of it, if you want to be honest, of them in the Southlands.
So I think what we have to see is them get their asses handed to them, so that in the following episode, everyone can be depressed and regroup, and then in the final episode, they have a comeback and do some ass kicking of their own. That is the pattern that I'm predicting for these next 3 episodes.
Okay, so 3 episodes. So a 3-episode finale fight. I could see something like that.
So they're gonna get their asses handed to them, and they're gonna have to stop and regroup, and it's gonna be all dismal second to last episode, and then the final episode they're gonna get that winning speech by somebody. Somebody's gonna give the inspirational speech, and they're gonna come back, and the season's gonna close on a high note.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the Eagles will come save them, and that's what happens in pretty much all of them. I still remember watching that in the original trilogy. All the Eagles. I was like, what? I said, hold on a second, man. I missed something. It's all of a sudden these mythical birds out here, man, just taking folk out. And I ain't seen them at all. 0% of them. And I'm confused. But that's that whole thing about reading the books and everything. And I got a question for you. If you were an avid reader of Tolkien's work, all the Lord of the Rings stuff, how could you really get into the movies and these TV shows? I feel like it would be kind of a letdown for you.
Well, I've read the original trilogy and I read The Hobbit, and I've skimmed through the Silmarillion, and just the overall tone is different. It's darker and more mysterious, and you're lured into you want to turn that page to see what's going to happen next. His writing style's phenomenal. So there are many things that you can do in a book that just don't translate well. And it's a miracle that the original trilogy films actually pulled off what they did, because the books are so vast. And they did an excellent job with them, right? The Hobbit was kind of a money grab, in my opinion. It took a 200-page book and made it into like fucking 8 hours of goddamn film, right? So,
right. I thought the Battle of the Five Armies was phenomenal, though. The Battle of the Five.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. They weren't bad. It was just for me as an obvious money grift on something they could have done in a 3-hour film. You know, really, they could have if they wanted to.
Well, they you know, take a little bit of time, man.
To compare it to what Amazon is doing in this fucking woke world that we live in, it's it's a story out of time, right? It doesn't seem to belong in this current timeline, particularly not in the manner in which it's being delivered to us, right? I feel like if this was I feel like Peter Jackson could have taken this and done a 3-movie thing with it and told the same story, and it wouldn't be as bad as it actually is. Okay,
yeah, and being good to go. Okay, I can agree with that. I can be down with that. So this episode ends. Galadriel, Halbrand, they grasp arms, and then you see them sailing away from Numenor, and so that's going to give us the makings of our next episode, where they should land in the Southlands and proceed to have some type of confrontation with Adar and the orcs. Do you think Adar is going to make it out of this season?
Oh yeah, I have a feeling we're going to see him for a while.
Okay. Because
he's a tangible bad guy, and we don't have any other one, right? There really is no other person to for all of our wrath to be hoist upon, right? So he's it. He's the only bad guy we got. And so he obviously answers to somebody who's probably fucking pretty nasty. And we'll probably catch a hint of who that is coming up. But no, I think he's good. I like the character. I don't see a reason for him to disappear. He's an elf, so he's immortal, and he's thousands of years old, even if he's all scarred and ugly. But yeah, I think he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay. Okay, I can agree with that. I believe
because he's kind of likable. Okay. He's a likable bad guy, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, so if that's the case, what character do you think will not make it out of this first season?
God,
I'm gonna go for Mia Elendil.
I think they're all gonna make it.
Oh, you do?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Damn.
Maybe the Harfoot chick. But other than that, like I can't see them ditching any of these characters, not for a long time, because we haven't really built an emotional connection to any of them yet, right? So if none of them did, nobody would give a shit, and so I think they have to take that into consideration. I think give us another year or two before they start killing off any of these people. But I think they're all going to make it out this season.
Okay,
for sure.
Okay. So you think all going to make? Well, the one thing, Nori, she's an idiot. We know this.
Oh yeah,
it's obvious. My man was freezing the water and freezing going up his arm, so I don't know why she grabbed it, and then she got scared.
Because Harfoots are stupid.
Like, okay, see, it's a Harfoot. She's just dumb. That's all. You know what I'm saying? It's just it wasn't a very smart move. It was obvious he was in a trance. He was doing some type of regeneration, and so just let him go through his paces. Okay, I think he has no clue what he's doing, but he's doing something. All right, so just let him go through his
moderate grasp of magic, to me, again reinforced that this is most likely Gandalf, and either he forgot his abilities or he's just now being born of the gods and figuring them out for the first time. One of the two.
Right. So we've got that. We've got our joining of Elrond and Durin in trying to go and convince Durin's father to harvest the mithril. So we'll see where that particular storyline takes us. Will we get a ring of power this season? Will we get one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I forget the order in which they were made, but
yeah, for it to be rings of power, I mean, I'd like to see the the rumblings of a ring by
well,
at least the last
Sauron's got to
episode.
be back. Sauron has to be back, and he has to be making the rings, and Mordor has to be established because he makes them in Mount Doom in Mordor. So, no, I don't think we're going to see a Ring of Power for years.
Dang, man. I mean, well, it's just hard to call the show the Rings of Power, and it ain't got no rings. That's all I'm saying. Because like I said, this is all about trying to cater to a new audience to get them to watch. So if they're watching this and you call it the Rings of Power and they ain't seen a ring yet, they're just like, oh, okay. I mean, you called it the Rings of Power and there ain't no ring. So where is this going? So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So you've always got to be thinking about that. Of course, I'm not no genius, but I just I try to make logical calculations on an audience, and if you're going to name it a particular thing, that you might want to give some type of hint to it before the end of the first season. Because I mean, these seasons, it's 8 weeks, but I mean they're over quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so in Fellowship of the Ring, they clearly state that Sauron's ring was cut off by Isildur 3,000 years. Almost exactly before the events of Fellowship of the Ring. Okay, so it's 3,000 years going back, and they are not really overly clear about a lot of things in the timeline, and they don't really indicate that it's that far back. So, yeah, I think that that's gonna have to come up at some point, and they're gonna have to clarify these events. Because I'm as a user or a consumer, if I didn't have any knowledge of Lord of the Rings and was just watching this from scratch, I'd be very confused as to what's going on and how does this connect to what we already know, right? So,
right, exactly. So, that wraps up this particular episode. Wasn't a bad episode. I'd probably give it like I said, it wasn't a lot of action, but it did give you plenty of backstory. So I'll probably give it 6 cubes out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 4 just because it was kind of meh. It wasn't bad, but it was just meh, so I give it 4 cubes.
Okay, so average of 5. So we have. Half is pretty good.
Yeah, that's about right.
Half is pretty good. Yeah, it gave you a little bit of backstory. So it gave a little bit of foreshadowing potentially. So yeah, that was all good. So yeah, that wraps up this particular episode. We will of course be back to cover next week's episode next week. In the meantime, we are going to try to do a little bit of Andor, new episodes from Star Wars. I got to catch up on that, which I will tomorrow.
That one, I went into that with a completely open mind, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I'll tell you this, it's not a spoiler, but the thing that I was pleasantly surprised about was that if you didn't tell me this was a Star Wars story, I might not have known. There were a couple little things that happen in it that indicate, they're talking about the Alliance and they're talking about this, things that are Star Wars related, but it didn't feel like Star Wars. It felt very much like Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was a quality movie, a total side story, and it had a very gritty kind of feeling to it. And so, this Andor, I think we're gonna like reviewing this one, and that'll be in one of the episodes coming up.
Okay. Yep. And of course, we're going to do some trailer breakdowns. We're going to do live reactions on those. Okay. We're going to watch them live, react to them live, what we think about them. So that's coming up as well. So be on the lookout for that. We appreciate everybody for checking us out. From your boy XQ420 and my co-host Corey Hughes. We will catch y'all on the next episode of Showtime with the Cube, which will probably be either Andor or She-Hulk or both. Yeah. So see us there. We'll catch y'all there. Peace out.